So this video is of breaking points with Krystal Ball and Saagar and Enjeti. I think it's Enjeti. Krystal Ball is married to Kyle Kalinske. They're both more far left, populist progressives. So they're usually very anti-America in every single foreign policy aspect. So they might say like, oh, Bernie's good on. Actually, no, Bernie's not far, enough on their side for Gaza. But let's say you agree with Bernie and AOC on Gaza, but not with Ukraine because you don't want to support America foreign policy in general. So you're like you're not pro-Russia, but you're also very victim blaming on Ukraine. Now Kyle Kalinske sees Ukraine and he has the correct take. He says, well, Ukraine's being invaded by a huge power. Russia wants to occupy Ukraine. It's illegal. It's terrible. They're killing kids. They're killing elderly. They're killing a bunch of civilians for fun. And Kyle Kalinske has the correct point there, a populist lefty. But then Krystal Ball here does 100% full Russian propaganda. Like, she is deranged. This is batshit insane what she says here. I watched it earlier, but this is batshit insane. I'm happy Kyle Kalinske has principle, and he's not letting her bring him down on this point. But it's really pathetic that she just buys into the framing.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Have an amazing show for everybody today. We have Krystal.
Indeed, we do. We got a big show today. The one and only Professor Jeffrey Sachs is going to join us to be able to break down that big Ukraine summit.
Jeffrey Sachs is anti-Western. Okay, so he's like pro-BRICS, for example. He's pro-Russia, pro-China. He's anti-America in every sense. He's going to do some great propaganda
from
here.
Yesterday. So really looking forward to hearing what he thought of everything that has transpired to the state. We also had some other interesting sound come from Trump as a part of that summit, talking about how he's getting rid of mail-in ballots. He also posted Truth Social to the same effect.
Based.
Also sort of floating the idea of, hey, maybe for a war, we just don't have an election. So
he wants to copy Ukraine.
Yeah.
Got the idea.
Lot to take note.
Yeah, and they say this dumbass buffoonery, this dumbass moronic bullshit where they're like, they're copying Ukraine with no wars. It's in their damn constitution. It's illegal to have elections, and they made it that way because they know Russia's going to invade every now and then, and they can't have elections when Russia's occupying 20% of the freaking country. And Krystal Ball and Saagar are going to laugh and like, oh, Zelensky. They have this theory in their brains that Zelensky is a power-hungry egomaniac who wants his time in the spotlight, ignoring all real politics. Like, it's just so pathetic saying that shit. It's illegal for Ukraine to have elections right now. It's literally illegal for them to do it. It's not some choice of emergency power during wartime. Their parliament would need to overturn that in the Constitution.
Of there and break down. Also, we were asking the question whether Gavin Newsom is going to meme his way to the presidency. He seems to be making some progress in that regard. Very interesting dynamics unfolding there. A little bit of weird horseshoe going on as well. So we'll break that down for you. The ADL chief is just outright lying about Zoran Mamdani. So we've got the receipts on that. And some quite noteworthy developments vis-a-vis Israel. Hamas has accepted a ceasefire deal. I wouldn't get too excited yet because, the Israelis will probably decide they just want to continue the war. But we did want to give you those details as well as some other updates. Before we jump into the show and this interview with Professor Sachs.
No, Kyle Kalinski's opinion here is good. His opinion's fine, okay? So is Bernie's. Bernie voted against Israel aid. He voted for aid for Ukraine, okay? He split the vote there. So there's a reason you would vote for Ukraine aid, but not Israel aid, obviously. But far lefties that are very anti-America, like Krystal or like Hassan Piker, will say, well, America's bad in every aspect, so we should not be helping Ukraine whatsoever. They want to blame Ukraine. So
Saagar
Kyle's
had
fine.
Some great breaking news yesterday, very significant. Why don't you break down for folks what you found and were able to get your hands on?
For our premium members, I dropped it last night just to get ahead of the news. But basically, you'll remember the story about Tom Alexandrovich, the Israeli government official who was caught up in an FBI child sex sting. I actually got my hands on some of the arrest documents and specifically the interview notes. And what we found inside of the documents is that Alexandrovich immediately identified himself as an Israeli government official. The FBI and HSI agents who interviewed him basically said, we're going to contact the embassy on your behalf. This directly contradicts the prime minister's office, who said that they didn't know that he had been arrested. He said, I need to get on a flight to Israel immediately.
That is a weird story. I have not seen anything about that yet, or enough about that yet.
If you're able. We're not keeping it behind the paywall or anything. I'm going to release it all publicly today, but it was important to give it to our premium subscribers first.
The other detail there is the
dodging crimes to go to another country is normal, but the capacity to do it and not be stopped is the interesting thing there.
An undercover agent who was posing as a 15-year-old.
I didn't even talk about the actual crime. It's disgusting.
I don't like talking about things with this subject matter if I'm not fully informed on it, guys. So if someone calls into my show, for example, and they start talking about some like conspiracies about the Holocaust or 9/11 or about Israel or whatever, I'm not saying everything's true or not true. I'm just saying if I'm not well versed on it, I don't have those conversations on my platform if I'm not ready.
Jeffrey
For
Sachs
them.
standing by. Let's get to it.
I don't know that.
We are very excited now to be joined by
about.
our friend Professor Jeffrey Sachs, who is obviously a major geopolitical expert. He's going to help us break down the Trump, Ukraine, and European summit that happened yesterday. Professor, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Great to be with you.
So, Professor, first we're going to go through this so that you can help break this down through the audience, kind of clip by clip, and each one of those things that it represents. To us, the major headline that came out of the summit was Trump not ruling out United States troops on the ground in Ukraine to provide some sort of Article 5 style security guarantee inside of Ukraine as some sort of grand peace deal with Russia. Here's Trump refusing to rule it out.
Your team has talked about security guarantees. Could that involve U.S. troops? Would you rule that out in the future?
We'll let you know that maybe later today. We're meeting with...
You can ask a 5-year-old child who just banged his head into a brick wall 80,000 times, and he'll get the same responses. Nothing Trump says here matters. At one point, Ukraine aid was cut off randomly after Trump said to give Ukraine more aid, to resume it, and they said to Trump, who paused the aid to Ukraine? And Trump said, "You tell me, I don't know who paused it." Like, he's literally just a brain dead moron. There's no difference in response here from a brain dead child versus him.
7 great leaders of great countries also, and we'll be talking about that. They'll all be involved, but there'll be a lot of help when it comes to security. There's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe, but we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
Please drop a like on the stream. Thank you for watching. Please drop a like, comment, subscribe. I'll take some phone calls later on. This video is around a half hour. I'll do probably a full reaction to it. Give my Ukraine takes here.
Will be involved, Professor, so not refusing to, or basically refusing to rule out not putting U.S. troops on the ground. There were several other instances during the meeting where this, quote, Article 5 style guarantee was brought up by many of the European leaders. Of course, we're hearing from the Kremlin, but first we want your reaction to what that would mean to the overall situation and Trump's rhetoric here and what it could potentially mean for any sort of peace deal.
Well, I don't believe we've just had 11 years of war and that the war is about to stop because the United States or Europe says they're going to have troops on the ground or Article 5-like agreements. This whole war started because the United States was pushing NATO to surround Russia and as far eastward as they could get. So
remember, there are 6 NATO countries bordering Russia. There are 6 NATO countries bordering Russia. Okay, 6.
I don't think that...
Ukraine is the only one of those countries, other than Belarus, that Russia has said is part of their Greater Russia project. Okay. So Ukraine in general, they had a puppet government there that fell apart during a revolution around a decade ago in Ukraine. All right, and at that point, Russia started to send troops and propagandists into Ukraine to try and shift Ukraine back to Russia's control. And then after that did not work, that's one reason Russia kept on invading and fighting at the borders. So like that framing alone is brain dead as shit.
The Russian side is going to say, sure, whatever you like. What we saw yesterday was I wouldn't say a master class, but it was a class in ambiguity on everything. Nothing was clear. Nothing was
like, here's
truthful.
A NATO
Nothing
map.
was settled.
Here's a NATO map.
But
you can see all the countries.
There is a general recognition that Ukraine is losing on the battlefield. A general fact that the United States political scene is not going to continue any large-scale war, proxy or otherwise, with Russia, and so that something should be done to end this. But the specifics are as vague as can be, and deliberately so. And Trump thinks that the way to make deals is to prevaricate, to make things vague.
LOL, you support American empire. I 100% support American empire over Russian empire or Chinese empire. 100%. 100. If you don't think that's a valid opinion, you are brain dead. Like, yes, you prefer American empire. Yeah, an imperfect empire that you have a chance to actually change is better than a totalitarian empire. Okay, and
things behind the scenes to pull each person in as his buddy to say yes to everything in an oblique way. But it's not going to end with the Article 5-like guarantees. In my view, the Russians have been fighting against that basically for more than 30 years. They've been in a hot war over it for 11 years because this war started in February 2014 when the United States conspired in a coup to overthrow a neutralist government. And the Russians aren't going to just say, yeah, Trump, you're our buddy. You put troops if you want. I don't believe it.
Right.
I think it would also be a terrible idea if the United States had troops in Ukraine.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, you could put A4 up on the screen, guys. Kremlin negatively reacting to that proposal of Article 5, like security guarantees. Certainly no surprise there. Just zooming out a bit, Professor, I'd just love to get your thoughts on what are the core sticking points for the Russians? What would be a deal that they would be interested in? What sort of conditions?
They want to expand the territory that they have right now. They want to take territory they don't even have currently. They want to redraw the lines officially with U.S. backing, and they want rights over probably the ports. And it's just like they want everything that they wanted. Like they want everything that they went for to begin with, and America wants to give them that, and they're going to say it's a peace deal. Like, no, you're giving them you're letting them win. I hate when they say too. You think, they'll probably say it, you think Ukraine's going to win this war, bro? Ukraine is being invaded. It's not a war for them to win. It's a war of survival. They're surviving against an invading a force of a giant country that's nuclear armed. Like, of course, they're not going to win. They're not going to beat Russia. They don't want to beat Russia. If Russia left today, there would be zero war whatsoever. If Ukraine leaves, their entire population is genocided.
Would the U.S., the Ukrainians, the Europeans, the West broadly have to meet in order to conclude some sort of a grand peace deal and bring this war to a close?
We have to understand where the war came from and therefore how it can end. The war started with the continuation of the Cold War after 1991. People thought there was peace, but the CIA, the military-industrial complex, continued the effort.
Yes, the CIA, military-industrial complex. Now, let's say they played roles, all right? I would not change my opinion. These agencies have done bad things. They have done good things, okay? Assigning moral value to the CIA in 1960, 1990, and 2025 in the same way is insane. They're malleable agencies that can serve different tasks. And acting like the CIA and all these different agencies in America are the reason Eastern European countries separated from the Soviet Union and voted for independence is taking away the full ability of self-determination and just the idea that Ukrainians and others and the other Eastern European countries could make decisions for themselves.
To weaken Russia, Brzezinski talked about Russia falling into three pieces in a 1997 article saying that maybe there'll be a loose confederation of a European Russia, a Siberian Russia, a Far East Russia. But the U.S. design was that Russia should finally basically be crushed, that the Cold War was with the Soviet Union, but we're not over yet. We're dominant. We won. And on that basis, Clinton began NATO enlargement. I say Clinton because basically every president then did the bidding of the military.
Taking away their agency? What's another word for that? Taking away their agency? Is that the word I'm looking for?
Military-industrial complex. Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump won, Biden, and maybe
acting like Ukrainians did not do their own revolution.
This crazy
multiple
misadventure,
times.
But this has been 30 years of trying to push NATO to Ukraine and to Georgia, by the way, in the South Caucasus, where the U.S. meddling continues to this day. The idea is Russia is a big country, and therefore it should be a weak country, according to the U.S. Strategic doctrine. Okay, we overthrew a government in February.
Okay, so Russia should be weak. Russia puts bounties on American troops. Russia wants to topple America in general. Russia wants to hack our country to pieces. Russia wants our country to die. They want us to die, okay? Wanting Russia to fail is a normal thing for any person who loves freedom in general. You can hate America. You should also want Russia to fail. That should not be a...
2014 installed a pro-NATO regime. Russia immediately took back Crimea at that moment because the post-coup government in Ukraine said, okay, we want Russia out of its Black Fleet naval base in Crimea. That's a naval base that Catherine the Great established in 1783 and that has been core to Russia's national security and power since.
Yes, the Russian propaganda. I very much care about their power they derive from 200 years ago.
1783. The United States
and
let's say the deep state said
autonomy,
we want Russia out of there. That was the same idea of the British and the French in 1853 of trying to get Russia out of Crimea in the Crimean War. Okay, enough history. The basic point is Russia does not want to be surrounded. It does not want NATO present. It does not want security guarantees like Article 5. It does not want Western troops on the ground. It wants Ukraine, at a minimum, to be a neutral buffer zone between the United States and its proxies and allies. And
now, they call it proxies in America. Okay, now find me the time where NATO aggressed upon Russia. The reason all those Eastern European countries and Finland, the recent addition, really rushed to join NATO is in a defensive response to Russia's aggression. It never aggressed upon Russia. It was always in response to Russian aggression as a form of defense against Russia. And
Russia. That's the bottom line. So, starting point, no NATO. Similarly, nothing that's NATO-like or NATO light of French and British troops and German troops, and that's what the whole war has been about. Right. Second, Crimea is never going back. This is absolutely clear. This was a gambit. This was a ploy of NATO to grab Crimea. And the whole idea, which Brzezinski spelled out in 1997, was if we can basically get Ukraine and push Russia out of the Black Sea, then Russia has no power in the Middle East. It has no power in the Eastern Mediterranean. And that was part of the strategy. So Crimea staying. Then come the territories that Russia has annexed as of November 2022. This is 2 in the east and 2 in the south. The idea of this goes back to 2 points. One is that at least in the east, these are overwhelmingly ethnically Russian regions that don't.
Oh man, he's saying the ethnically Russian point. That's crazy. That's the same thing Hitler said about Czechoslovakia when Germany invaded there. They were really just German. They wanted to be part of Germany, and the other countries at the time said, well, guys, we have to appease Germany. They will not take any more. They will stop here. Then you invade Poland. Like, it's just, the ethnic Russian point is pure Russian propaganda. It's such a stupid freaking point. Like, oh, there's ethnic people here. There's ethnic Americans in Canada. Let's invade. There's ethnic Mexicans in Texas. It's just so stupid. It's so dumb.
And Russia said in 2015, make them autonomous. We don't want them as territory, but make them autonomous under a treaty called the Minsk II Agreement.
True.
The United States,
the treaty that Russia,
typically because it was still in its expansionist mode, said no. Told Ukraine, you don't have to honor that agreement. Russia did not claim those territories. It just said leave them alone to have the Russian language, Russian ethnicity, and so forth. And Ukraine, in the post-coup environment, said no. We will take them in a unitary state. So
by June 2015, Russia violated Minsk II over 4,000 times. The ceasefire collapsed because Russia refused to go by any treaty or ceasefire at any point. Oh my God. Minsk II obligated withdrawal of all foreign armed military units and military equipment from the Donbass.
Russia grabbed those back. Now it's claimed those back.
And this video is a popular video too.
The reason why I think the map is quite important, sir, is if you look at the red areas, this is, I mean, probably as accurate as it gets. This is the United States, intelligence community creating this map for the president in the Oval Office, which he used. And as you were talking, you can actually see the percentage numbers that have been listed here by the U.S. intelligence community. If we zoom in, we could see some 70 to 80 to 90% of many of these provinces, like you were these areas, like you were talking about, and they're controlled by Russia. So you can just, as you can see from that map, it backs up much of what you're saying.
So the basic idea is that, ironically, before the United States made the coup in February 2014, Russia was not claiming these territories at all.
Before the U.S. made the coup, if you talk to people who live in Ukraine who are part of that revolution, it's extremely disrespectful to people fighting for their independence from a corrupt authoritarian government to say they were couped by another country in America. That's freaking insane.
Not at all.
You can go to Ukraine right now. Go watch interviews of Ukrainians. I'm not going there, but you can watch interviews.
For Ukraine, because this is so typical of the CIA.
And you can go. There's actual journalists there
for our supposed friends. So when the coup came, and Kiev, that is the new central government in the post-coup Ukraine, said we'll crack down on the ethnic Russian regions in the east and the south. A treaty was brokered by Russia to stop what was then a beginning war, called the Minsk I and then the Minsk II agreements. And
Russia didn't. Okay, where's Krystal at? I want to hear Crystal's opinion. Is she going to talk at the end of this? Wait, let me see. Is there a point where they talk without him for a little bit? No, must be a different video.
And I have to say, no admirer, no believer that this is defending Ukrainian democracy. There is no democracy. And so one of the things that...
What the hell, bro?
And I've never really...
Okay, she probably was asking the question here, right?
Best one will be...
The thing the next day when he's with someone else. I wanted to ask you about how Zelensky figures into all of this. Let's say that the vibes between him and Trump were very different this time than the last time Zelensky was in the Oval Office. Let's go ahead, guys, and play A2.
We had very good conversation with President Trump.
Very good.
And it really was the best one. Or sorry, maybe the best one will be in the future. But it was really good. And we spoke about very sensitive points. The first one is security guarantees. And we are very happy with President that all the leaders are here, and the security in Ukraine depends on the United States and on you and on those leaders who are with us.
And Professor Saagar and I both noted he seems to have really been working on his English. Clearly, he realizes that it's very important he's able to have an effective relationship with President Trump here. But you know, you said earlier, it seems like the Ukrainian people are exhausted, want to bring this war to a close. It's not clear that their president is on board with that. You know, what do you make of his...
Like this, bro, this saying Zelensky is not on board with it. And Krystal has refused to bring up Putin and Russia in this equation whatsoever. Oh, man.
Role in his positioning and what he wants to see going forward.
First, it's important to understand that
he's
there
an egomaniac
is
who wants
martial
people to die.
law in Ukraine.
Yes, martial law.
We watched the videos
the
also of the people being forcibly knocked off their bicycles or dragged off the street to the front line to their death.
Oh, to their death. Where did they die at? Really, where did they die? I'm really confused. Where did they die, and how did they die? You know, Russia. You know, if they left, there would be no more war. If Ukraine put their guns down, they would be dead and in re-education camps like instantly. But you know, let's talk about Ukraine and how they have conscription and how they have a draft. Let's talk about Ukraine. You know, if America was being invaded and 20% of our territory was taken by an invading force like China, we would also have a draft, 100%. No one would even argue it. That'd be such a clear-cut example of when you would need a draft to defend your country. But no, let's not talk about Russia shooting their troops, sending them up with no weapons to go and just die. Random people, random North Koreans, just random people going out there getting droned to death. In a war of attrition. Like, Russia has suffered so many casualties compared to Ukraine because they don't care at all about their people. But again, let's not talk about Russia ever. And these people are on the left, right? They're on the left. Let's not talk about Russia. Let's never talk about Russia. Let's talk about Ukraine. Yeah, freaking Ukraine. Ugh.
Zelensky is ruling over a military regime, not a democracy.
Remember, it's in their constitution. According to and reinforced by their parliament, they will not have elections while under invasion or in wartime when their territory is occupied. How can they have an election when 20% of the country is occupied by Russia? How would you do that? If all of Texas was occupied by China, how would we have an election in America? How would we do that? Now, it's not in our constitution in the same way as it is in Ukraine's, but their constitution was made on purpose to be that way. If their parliament would change it, they can vote on it and change it, then that can happen. But
Democratic term of office expired years ago, and he continues to rule by martial law, basically.
That's not how that works at all.
So I don't give any I don't give any legitimacy
what's a constitution?
To his statements as reflecting the will of the Ukrainian people. This is a starting point. I've never really admired what he's done, because rather than signing a peace agreement that he had in front of him in April 2022 that would have ended this war on far better terms than anything that's going to happen now, he let the United States talk him out of that. Maybe.
So if someone's breaking into your house, you can simply end it. You can end it by letting them come in and steal everything, right? You can just end it right there. It's easy. Just let them steal everything in your house. Let them just kill your dog, kill your cat. Let them just do everything they want to do, all right? There will be no conflict at all. Just let them get in, take the shit, get out, all right? Why would you not accept that? Why would you not just let someone come in your house and steal your stuff? I mean, do you want conflict? Did you want to fight someone or punch them or shoot them when they entered your home? I mean, you obviously want war if you don't let someone just take your house from you. You obviously want war, right? You wanted the conflict. It's your fault, actually. The person that robbed you, Well, we don't got to talk. We don't got to talk about them. Don't worry.
He's a mere puppet anyway. But instead of signing an agreement that was on the table on April 15th, 2022 in the so-called Istanbul process, he walked away from a peace agreement. Since then has lost massive territory and probably a million Ukrainian dead. So I'm no fan, I have to say. I'm no admirer. I'm no believer.
Has he criticized Putin in this conversation at all? In this half-hour conversation? Has there been one criticism of Russia? Now, they might say, well, you know, Zelensky is a piece of shit dictator who wants to kill every single child in Ukraine and rip them into vans, and he's pushing this war. But also, Russia invaded, I guess. But Ukraine, though, Zelensky, he's an evil dictator. Like, okay, thank you, Krystal, for defending freedom. Imagine. Thank God Kyle Kalinske, her husband, is not this brain dead. Thank God she did not kill his brain yet.
That this is defending Ukrainian democracy. There is no democracy. And so one of the things that makes the idea that if Zelensky meets with Putin.
She is good on some issues, okay? I don't hate Krystal. She says vote for blue Democrats to prevent fascism. She's very on top of criticizing Trump 100%. But on this one topic, for some reason, I don't know if Saagar got her just in some type of mind trap or something, but she is saying some crazy shit.
He's shown to be on the big stage.
And by the way, she reinforces when he says these things. Krystal agrees,
and then he can maintain his power either through winning a re-election, perhaps, or just expanding
and extending his power. Yes,
his military rule. But this seems to be the
guys. If Zelensky's role is purposely letting the war go on to maintain power, and Russia violated all those treaties and ceasefires before, they violated everything. Let's pretend that never happened. All right, if Zelensky's goal is to get reelected, do you know what would make Zelensky really popular? You know what would probably make him like one of the most popular people in Ukrainian political history? Maybe like if he could easily end the conflict to get full Ukrainian independence and peace. That'd probably make him really popular, right? But no. Of course, it's a big conspiracy theory. He purposely wants this to happen. Of course. Why not? Why not, dude?
A carrot that Trump is dangling to Zelensky. I'll put you on the big stage. We won't overthrow you. We won't let Putin diss you. You'll have respect, stage. But you have to give in on this, and this. So, frankly, Zelensky is, look, he's losing a war on the battlefield. He doesn't have the public support. He rules by martial law. By all accounts, which I can't personally verify, but by all accounts, the regime is incredibly corrupt.
Zelensky offered to step down as a compromise and a deal, and they went to multiple destinations that America set for Russia and Ukraine to talk, and Russia did not show up to any of them. Ukraine has had this all on the table. They have accepted every ceasefire so far. Ukraine has accepted every chance at peace so far. Russia has not. Russia launched their biggest attack of the war yesterday. Like during the meeting with the European leaders in D.C. Russia increased their strikes in Ukraine. They quadrupled them when Trump won the election. They doubled them since Trump took office. Like, Trump is an easy mark for them. And it's pathetic to hear people buying this bullshit propaganda.
So not only am I no fan, I think probably what Trump is trying to do is to appeal to the most narrow and basest survival instincts of Zelensky himself, and dangling this meeting with Putin, the big stage summit, as the prize, and then getting Zelensky in one way or another to
as the prize,
end the rhetoric of
all
fighting
Zelensky
on
wants is a big ego trip.
1991 borders.
Yes,
I think
Krystal.
that's
Shake your head.
Last thing
Krystal,
we wanted to take on, sir, is some of the
Genius.
continuation, because the threat from the United States is, well, if this doesn't work, we'll just go to more sanctions, as if Russia is not the most sanctioned country in the world. Already,
I'll keep sanctioning them. If they want to go violate international law and take parts of Ukraine and just take it and annex it, then you don't let them back into the international order ever. Like, if you don't want to give military support to Ukraine, that's fine. But they should be sanctioned for the rest of history. Do secondary sanctions as well. But... yeah.
We've actually seen, we can put A7, please, here on the screen. Both Lindsey Graham and the White House advisor, Peter Navarro, say that India's, quote, Russian crude oil buying must stop. Of course, even the imposition of 50% tariffs on India has not changed their behavior a single iota. In fact, Narendra Modi is posting about phone calls with President Putin just yesterday. I believe I was reading this morning.
Nice.
Heard some of that
we played it here.
Days and days what is the United States doing? We have to find our friends and so forth. So this was a blunder that has.
He says he's friends with BRIC countries, by the way, with BRICS. He's very pro being anti-America. This guy is crazy. I saw a video of Krystal and Saagar talking as well. I don't know when it was from, but she said some crazy stuff there too. I want to find it really quick. Dave Smith was destroying neocons on the show. Thank you. Amazing. Hillary praises Trump on Ukraine peace talk. Is this the one, maybe?
Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Yep, lots to get into today. So Zelensky is in town along with a whole bunch of European leaders. So we will see what will come out of that. Also, Hillary Clinton agreeing with Trump on a number of foreign policy issues. So
it's a sell time. All
looking
right.
forward to getting Saagar's reaction to that.
Let's get the hell out of this timeline as soon as possible.
In particular, yes. Actually, that's what we were just discussing before we went live. In addition, we have lots more to get to. This story, I can't even believe this is real. A top Israeli aide to Netanyahu was arrested in Las Vegas.
Did they say this again in the other video?
Or your favorite episode to a friend, give us a 5-star rating. It really helps other people find it. So let's go ahead and start with Ukraine. We had Professor John Mearsheimer break down the exact kind of the meaning of the summit. We have some more details now that are coming out.
I'm not getting any calls, guys. Please drop a like, comment, subscribe. By the way, thank you for hitting this donation goal. We're getting close to it. We're at 19% to this goal for me to get an actual studio. I really appreciate all the donations. Thank you so much. For everyone that donated to a longer stream, I'm going to do that still. I still have that in the chamber. Like I said, I probably work 70 hours a week right now. I'm exhausted, so I have to set aside time to actually sleep a few nights in a row before I do the super long stream. But I appreciate you all for the support. Thank you so much. But yeah, once I get callers, I'll take some. But
we know, of course, that President Zelensky is already here in Washington. Almost every major leader of NATO from the European Union will be here in Washington as well for a grand meeting between Zelensky, Trump, and all of them to kind of set the terms. We did get some interesting new revelations on what we could see in any sort of peace agreement from Steve Witkoff, the chief negotiator of the president.
Steve
would allow that to happen?
No, Jake, that's not what I said. What I said is that
the front line, including some cities that they already control. Everyone, please keep in mind, the Ukrainian government is like, oh, well, we can't give that up. These cities are rubble, no matter where they control it or not, both for Russia and for Ukraine. It's not like some thriving metropolis that they're just handing over, right? These have been completely emptied and destroyed.
Okay, so if a country comes in and bombs your cities, therefore you can just go and take it. Like, Krystal will hear this argument from Saagar and let it stand. And then if someone says that about Gaza, which is also wrong, she will say this is the biggest travesty in human history. Like, you cannot have a double standard here. Just because you're anti-America in every context.
That is by far the single most significant thing that has come out. But
oh, it's rubble anyway.
We should keep
Might
in
as well
mind,
give it to him.
even if that is true, you have to get Zelensky to agree. Zelensky, in the last 48 hours, I have tracked every single one of his public statements. He is not even close to coming towards a peace deal. In fact, his chief aim from the Financial Times and others, which I will return to, is not only a ceasefire, an immediate ceasefire. Why does he want an immediate ceasefire? Because they're losing the war and they're expending and losing manpower.
They're being invaded and their civilians are being bombed every single day in rising numbers as Trump pussyfoots around the issue. But Saagar's like, well, they're losing the war. Ukraine would not be at a war. Ukraine would not be at a war if Russia was not invading them. Again, these people hate America. Like, Saagar, he is a demon. Like, he should not be, like, the fact Krystal does a show with him is insane.
An immediate ceasefire. He wants a security guarantee before, on top of the ceasefire. He's not.
Corey. I said, okay, so if Saagar says and Krystal say that the cities in Ukraine are rubble, the cities are rubble in Ukraine, so who cares if they lose it? I'm saying that she's being inconsistent because she'll just laugh that away. She'll laugh it away. But then Gaza comes up and she says it's the biggest travesty in human history. But she needs to be consistent, is what I'm saying.
Not ready to agree to a peace deal because he keeps saying, I can't even agree to a peace deal. I have to bring it to a national referendum, which of course he can control the process through which that would happen. Part of the reason he is here in Washington today with all the European leaders is actually to convince Trump to go back to Putin and say, you need to agree to an immediate ceasefire or we're going to put all of these secondary sanctions on you. I believe, this is echoing Mearsheimer, that Trump, it all finally clicked for him to say, no matter what sanctions I do, no matter what's going on, Putin what he's demanded.
Nothing clicks for Trump. Trump has literally said, I think Putin is going to give me a deal because he likes me, as crazy as that sounds. Trump has said that Putin speaks with elegant language, and Trump can't believe the beautiful language leads to more airstrikes of children the next day. Trump thinks Putin loves him. Trump says him and Putin have gone through so much together. Like, Trump is not here at all. He's a brain-dead mental...
Has really not changed all that much since Istanbul back in 2022. And it's basically immovable from that point forward. And so you basically have these two almost immovable objects now, considering the Ukrainian and the European Union position. The United
Thank you for $5, Corey. Corey, thank you for $5 with a crab. Thank you for $5, Corey. Thank you so much.
States is caught in between. For some reason, we have subjugated all of our policy.
Okay, after I get Krystal's take here, after I hear Krystal's take here, I'll take a caller. Okay, I want to hear her take.
To the EU and to the Ukrainians, and then the Russians, of course, have no compunction about killing thousands of men on the front line every single day if they have to continue to grind forward inch by inch in Ukraine. So it's bad all the way around. I see no possible way. Echoing actually the Secretary of State Marco Rubio on television, he's like, we're not even close to a peace agreement right now. So I believe him. I think he's right. And, with the European Union and the Ukrainians, it's not good right now. That's
and just to spell people out for people, and you guys did a great job with Mearsheimer spelling this out over the weekend.
Like, do you realize this president we have is literally a brain-dead idiot? Like, he was taking a picture with them. He's like, I got a new picture on the wall. That was not a good day. That wasn't a good day. It was a good day. Remember when Trump said, this traumatized me so much I can barely talk about it? Now he cannot stop talking about it. These are the most pathetic loser bitches in the world, the people that do this shit. I think he's like a cat. He really is like a cat. Actually, I take my words back. He's neurodivergent. He actually has issues, right? He should be in a home right now. That was not a good day. That was not a great day. That was not a good day.
Difference between a ceasefire and a peace deal. The Ukrainians want a ceasefire because that means you don't have to actually deal with the reality of the territorial.
And Trump said that the reason that if Trump won 2020, Putin would not have invaded is because Trump had strong borders. He said he's like, I had strong borders in America, therefore Russia wouldn't.
In a peace deal, the Ukrainians want a ceasefire because that means you don't have to actually deal with the reality of the territorial loss. You can just say, okay, we're just taking a pause, gives them a chance to sort of regroup, reconstitute, reconsider, etc. Whereas the Russians, I mean, he has been saying basically the same thing from the beginning of the war about what the conditions are that would need to be met.
Okay, what conditions?
And fundamentally, they are unacceptable to the Ukrainians. They're unacceptable to the Europeans.
International law.
They're unacceptable to a lot of the American leadership as well.
Law.
So
no, not the Europeans and Americans and Ukrainians. International law, basic ideas of sovereignty, basic ideas of criminal warfare being rejected. Like, what is she going on about, bro? Like, I swear, she'll grill Alyssa Slotkin. Rightfully so, all right? But she is so brain dead here, she doesn't see the hypocrisy. Do you see how light this is now?
Question is, are you going to end up
the crazy ones are the Ukrainians,
with a Ukraine that is at all, sovereign? The faster this ends, the better it is for Ukraine. And it's going to be...
That's not always true. A bad deal is way worse than no deal. That is true. A bad deal is worse than no deal. You don't rush into this shit. It's not buying a new car. You shouldn't rush into that either. But it's not true. Ending it quick. By the way, if you go to the car dealership, it's not God.
Incredibly ugly. Like, if it ends now, it's going to be incredibly ugly, the kind of deal that would have to be struck.
During these so-called negotiations, Russia has quadrupled, again, their strikes on civilians.
But if you continue, it is likely to only get even uglier because of the logic of Russia just having so much more manpower and Ukraine really spending so much of their manpower already in this war.
Okay, so So in Gaza, I mean, it's a decimated territory. We had October 7th. Now Israel wants to occupy everything and fully do a Gaza ethnic cleansing. All right, they're a bigger, powerful nation. I don't know why these people in Gaza, they won't accept the peace deal and release the hostages. It's their fault. If they let this continue, if Hamas lets this continue, it's going to get way worse and worse and worse. And it's Hamas's fault. Israel simply defending themselves. And Hamas was encroaching upon, do you realize what she's saying here?
and being in such a precarious position. You know, things have been like, the Russians continue to make sort of minor advances. They did have a significant breakthrough that we covered last week. However, as time goes on, the Russians are betting that whatever
we fund Israel, we don't fund Russia. Yeah, that matters when it comes to an arms embargo or when it comes to withholding aid for certain requirements. But when it comes to international law and talking about a stronger power trying to occupy and ethnically cleanse a smaller power, that logic still applies. Now, our culpability and our involvement in these situations can change. You can argue America should not be involved, but the fact America wants to force Ukraine to fit the Russian narrative is crazy. It's insane. I know that we fund Israel, and that's why it's different in that regard. But it does not change at all in the value judgment. And the weak words, the passive language he uses when discussing Russia.
If they're facing from the sanctions, whatever potential societal instability they're facing, which, you know, from the surface level doesn't seem like a whole lot, that they can basically outlast the
Ukraine. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. One more time. You can be pro-Taiwan, pro-Ukraine, and pro-Palestine. All right? You can be those things. That's why Bernie Sanders is based.
Ukrainians, and I think that's a fairly safe bet to make.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not on a timeline. Both the Russians and the Ukrainians are living in insane, like, timelines, where the Ukrainians are like,
both.
Look at this micro breakthrough that we made. It's like, look at the time scale. In 2022, you launched your grand counteroffensive, and you made all of this talk about retaking this. None of it happened. We gave you probably $100 billion since that time period. The front line is relatively frozen.
Russia has been, if the front line's frozen, that means Ukraine's very successful.
And if there's been any movement, it's been on the Russian side. Now, Zelensky himself, again, reiterating those core demands where he wants a security guarantee explicitly ahead of that. He only wants a ceasefire immediately before moving to peace. And then, in terms of any territorial concession, he's already ruling that out without a national referendum.
Well, you would think if Russia truly wants peace, think about this. If Russia cannot accept a ceasefire, why would you even think for a second they're going to accept a treaty or accept any type of deal? If they cannot stop for one day, if Russia's gonna spit in America's face and spit in Ukraine's face and launch their biggest civilian offensive, going after civilians in Ukraine, the day of these talks, what makes you think they can be reasoned with? Like, this isn't enough to put someone in a home. Like, it's actually crazy.
Territorial question is one that he's not really willing to get to. Here's what he had to say.
The Constitution of Ukraine makes it impossible to give up territory or trade land. Since the territorial issue is so important, it should be discussed only by the leaders of Ukraine and Russia at the trilateral.
Yeah, and Ukraine has accepted every ceasefire deal so far. They were at every meeting so far. Russia pulled out every time. And then we had our soldiers get on their knees for Putin to roll out the red carpet. And we said, oh, we're so lucky Putin came to American soil. We're so lucky. We're America, bro. Putin should be lucky to come to America. They are lucky as shit. We have a brain-dead president. And MAGA's talking like we had some royalty on our... We had filth on our soil, not royalty.
Ukraine, United States, Russia. So far, Russia gives no sign that trilateral will happen. And if Russia refuses, then new sanctions must follow.
So you can see there about Ukraine does not even have the ability without some sort of national referendum. By the way, one thing that is interesting compared to the Gallup polling that we've shown here, Ukrainian people are already mostly broken. I mean, many of them want a negotiation.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy that they are broken when they're being invaded by Russia.
Peace to the south. Now, maybe what Putin is demanding is too much. Like, quote, negotiated peace can mean a whole lot of different things.
Yeah,
but
true.
The point remains, like, you can see that he's absolutely not willing to even bring it up in this meeting right now with Trump. I want everyone to understand. All of this is in the public.
There's no reason
what they've said.
If Russia says to Trump the other day that they want safety for Ukraine. But if you listen to Russian media and Putin himself and the Kremlin, they view Ukrainian safety as Russian occupation. So in the same way the mafia will provide you protection by pretty much taking over your business and taking a percentage, Russia wants to do that with Ukraine to occupy them. So when Russia says they want peace or whatever, it's in that context. They view Ukraine as a fake state, a fake sibling or a fake like child that tore off from Russia, and they need to get it back. into the Greater Russia project.
Going to do. The European leaders there are there to hammer home only a single point. We need the ceasefire, and we need it now. They basically want to box the United States into their own insane position, which is all of these preconditions for peace, as if they are winning the war. Right. The reason Putin is irresolute
being invaded. Why is a ceasefire such a big deal here? Why do you think a ceasefire is so crazy here? Like what?
Resolute is because he's winning the war. He has stood up against the sanctions. He has stood up against, obviously, the Ukrainian military. The Europeans have thrown everything that they possibly could at him. It doesn't matter. If they had the military might, they would do it. I mean, I talked to some military experts. In terms of the cards, the Russians have the cards because there's not a single thing not strapped to the ground that we could send Ukraine that was going to make a damn difference because of their own manpower issues. So this is all very important for everybody to understand.
The question to really ask here, I want to hear Krystal really quick once she has a turn to talk. There's Hillary. Okay, is he doing the whole segment? Okay, well, she's being such a pushover right now, and I've said that about her before. What was I gonna say? Oh God, I forget.
Does everybody want to shut down our economy because of Ukraine?
Yeah.
It's preposterous.
Yeah, I mean, I just see the whole thing as, it honestly is sickening because it is a tragedy of the failures of U.S. foreign policy over.
Yes, the real tragedy is America. The real enemy here in this entire thing has been America. America has caused it. America did a coup of Ukraine with the CIA. America is the reason Russia invaded because of NATO, you know.
Decades. You know, we use Ukraine as pawns, and that's what has led to.
Yeah, zero Ukrainians when they had a revolution cared about this. The Ukrainians today fighting for the survival of their country did not want to, you know, separate from Russia at all. You know, it's just that the CIA did brainwaves and made them zombies like the chum bucket helmets in the SpongeBob movie. And no Ukrainians have any autonomy. They don't have any ability to control themselves. They don't have any like free will whatsoever. Ukraine, yeah, dude, yeah.
To this horrifying outcome where, you know, what the Hawks are pushing for and is what is possibly going to happen, and what the Europeans, you know, would want out of this meeting today, and what Zelensky would want out of this meeting today is to use secondary sanctions, like as if we haven't already sanctioned. Russia is the most sanctioned.
Oh my God, she's repeating
country on the planet already.
She's repeating Saagar's talking points. Oh no. The secondary sanctions are different because you punish countries working with the country. So you don't just sanction Russia so they can invade it. You say India or another country, we're going to penalize you. Okay, we're going to penalize you if you work with Russia.
The world.
But we're going to, you know, levy now secondary sanctions to try to put even more pressure on Russia to try to secure some sort of a, you know, immediate ceasefire without a larger peace deal. Russia's not going to go for that. But what that means for you is that once again, the U.S. tariff policy and trade policy is being used to effectuate these foreign policy goals, and that does have real impact on you and what prices you're paying and what, you know, cost of living here is.
Yes, bro. Shit, dude. I got to pay 10 cents more.
In the U.S. And it's very unlikely to work. I mean, this is the insanity frequently of our foreign policy. I always think about Joe Biden when he was like, you know, we're talking about the Houthi strikes, and he's like, we're going to continue the Houthi strikes. Are they going to work? No. Are they going to continue? Yes. So much of our foreign policy is driven that way. Do you think there's any reasonable expectation here in D.C. that if we levy some more sanctions or, you know, secondary sanctions against Russia, that that's going to somehow...
Oh, crap. Okay. This is what I was going to say.
You know, to be...
No, it's not a magical working, you dumb idiot, you brain dead moron. It's not a magical working. If a country is going to invade another sovereign territory and just take it and annex it, they cannot be accepted into the international fold. It's not about an instant fix. It's about you're going to have long-term pain. You're not invited back to the table. But Putin brought his oligarchic friends to, by the way, Krystal Ball, the donor class and oligarchs, they brought the oligarchs from Russia to come negotiate with Trump's oligarchs to make deals, economic deals, for them to all profit off this bullshit. Like Russia and Trump are the ones working together on this. Oh God.
Be honest.
War sanctions or, you know, secondary sanctions.
It's not a quick fix. If you don't want to give weapons, the least you can do is cut out Russia from the global stage. It's not a country you can trust or work with. We've known this for how many years? The main question to ask is, if Russia could take all of Ukraine as America, would we let them, under Saagar's worldview or maybe Krystal's worldview? At what point would you give aid to Ukraine? At what point would you give aid? Now, if they don't want to give any aid to Ukraine, and we have NATO all throughout Eastern Europe, including bordering Russia with 5 or 6 countries, if you don't want to help Ukraine, then if Russia sent some type of, minor offensive into a NATO country, will you give aid at that point? And if you're going to wait to give aid until that point, why would you not just provide basic aid now? Why would you not just provide basic aid now? Or do you let Russia take all of Ukraine, get rewarded for it? That would probably spark a global conflict, if anything. But you have to ask other questions. If they had to debate someone on this, you need to understand at what limit are they gonna keep going with this idealistic bullshit? All these anti-war people, everybody's anti-war, bro. Everybody's anti-war. War's not good. But America's not safer by bitching out of everything. Please drop a like, comment, and subscribe to this video. Crazy.